Now we're going to apply stone to the wall. In this case, we're going over a concrete wall, so we don't need metal lath and a scratch coat. Unfortunately, in the training area here, this wall's been painted. We would never be applying this product to a painted wall, but this might cause a little sagging. Not a big deal for demonstration purposes. Occasionally, if you're not getting really good adhesion, or maybe it's just a very hard, smooth finish, you will scratch coat the day before. You don't need the metal lath. You just put a little bonding agent in and put the scratch coat on, just so you have something for your mortar and your stone to bite to very good. Okay, typically we're going to be starting from the top and working our way down. The reason is we're going to make a little splatter and a little mess. And so as stone are being laid and mortar drippings are coming down, we're not getting the work beneath us nasty. The only time we're not going to do that is if it's a dry stack stone. Then we're going to have to go from the bottom up. However, that can tend to be a little bit neater. The one thing that I want to call to everyone's attention is how we butter the stones. So, for example, I've seen a lot of people do this, and then they go like this, and they do all the edges. This is wrong. Completely wrong. This is a no-no. Because what you're going to see is that when you do that, you hear it and you get a good suction and you think that's good and you see mortar oozing from all four sides. However, right here, you could see that piece of wall never had mortar on it. You had a void in the middle. So it's not the correct way to do it for that reason. On top of that, it's not productive. It's not effective. The proper way to put mortar on the stone is to just put a big glob right on the stone in the middle. 1 second, for one movement, not all this nonsense where you're buttering the edges. That makes me crazy. You just put one glob in the middle. Then you are going to squeeze it until it comes out of all the sides. Once you see it coming out of all the sides, then you know you have mortar everywhere. Right there, give a couple taps. I see the mortar squeeze through. Now I'm comfortable that I have a full bed of mortar, because I know I started with a big glob of mortar in the middle of the stone, and now it is squeezed to all four edges. And it was much more productive. One big glob, throw it on, and go. Another thing that we see people doing oftentimes is overthinking the stone. Stacking them, all this size piece here, all that size piece there. It's a total waste of time. You gotta follow the rules. And as long as you follow the rules, you'll be okay. Now, you pick up a stone, mud it, and lay it. So all you do is you grab the next stone and you say, where can I place it that I don't break one of the rules? What are the rules, you might ask? Well, laying a stone vertical where it's taller than it is long, that's a no-no. No verticals, that's a rule. Another rule is no crosses. What's a cross, you ask? A cross is basically a four-way intersection in your stone. This is a cross. We never, ever want to see a cross. Another no-no is a 2-on-2 or a 3-on-3 or a 4-on-4. What is that? Right here, I broke the joint, 2-on-2. If I had 3 stones here and 3 stones here, even if I broke the joints this way so I didn't have a cross, 3-on-3, 2-on-2, that's a no-no. A lot of these rules have to do with rules you would follow when you build a real stone wall. How do the stones find their strength? How do they interlock correctly? This is not very strong. A vertical is not very strong. So you would not see that in a structural stone wall. You can almost always tell just by these few simple rules whether the stone is fake or not, because a lot of people who apply this product aren't masons, they never set a stone, And so they just stick them on the wall anywhere. And when they're done, it looks fake. We don't operate that way. We follow the same rules. Now that being said, don't overthink it. Just grab the next stone and put it somewhere that you're not going to break a rule. A lot of guys lose productivity on the job site because they tend to overthink things. Another rule, another no-no, is what we call a jumper. And I know that some people call a jumper a large stone that jumps your bond, but in this case, what we call a jumper is when you notch a corner out of a stone so that you can fit it somewhere. So for example, if I wanted to lay this stone here, I might have the saw man cut this corner off. That's not a natural look. Anytime you see someone cutting the corner out of a stone to make something work, it's not something you would see in a natural wall. It looks fake, it looks rough, it's a no-no. If you're gonna point a Kellered mortar in, as you're squeezing the mortar, you wanna clean this out. If you're gonna point it with the same mortar, you could let a little bit of that slide. Occasionally, you're gonna have an area like this where you need to cut a piece to infill. That's fine, that's normal, that's why we have saws. But one thing that I wanna say is your cut is not going to look natural. So always put your cut on the side that is less visible. So if you're low, put the cut facing down. If you're high, put the cut facing up. If you're near a door, put the cut away from the door. Whatever you do, minimize the visibility of the cut, especially if it's going to be seen, a dry stack stone, or it's thicker than what you're going to joint. If you can't hide the cut, you're going to have to smear some mortar to cover it whenever you're jointing the wall. Another rule I want to talk about is vertical and horizontal joints. We do not want to have very long vertical and very long horizontal joints without breaking them. So, for example, this is a horizontal joint that gets broken right here. This is a vertical joint that gets broken right here. You're going to typically not have a roll by foot, but have a roll by stone. This should be established at the beginning of the job. If the stone sizes are small, and you might say, hey, we're not going to go more than 6 vertically without breaking it. We're not going to go more than 12 or 15 without breaking them horizontally. And that's some of these stones that we get are kind of small, vary in size. Something like this is on the little bit larger side to medium, and I would probably say you're not going to go max 4 vertically, probably mostly 3 and 2, and horizontally you're not going to go more than 6 stones without breaking the horizontal joint. One way you can check your work for vertical and horizontal joints is close an eye. So when you get down for lunch break, you get down at the end of the day, stand back, cover an eye, close an eye, and look at the wall. It makes it two-dimensional when you have an eye closed. Once it is two-dimensional, you will see things like those lines standing out much clearer. Now we're going to talk about bagging it and jointing it. I prefer these plastic throwaway bags, mostly because where you cut the tip dictates the size of the opening. So if you have a very tight joint, you could cut your tip shallow. If the joint's wider, you can go deeper. Basically looks like this when you get them out of the box. These are probably $1/4 a piece. You buy them by the box, you work with them for a day, and you discard them. Always keep a bucket of clean water handy so that you can rinse your bag. This bag's brand new. I don't really need to dip it, but whenever I'm done using this, If your mortar starts getting crusty or you start having cake build up in here, you're gonna wanna dip it into that bucket and let the clean water run through it. Whenever you're jointing, your mortar should be nice and pliable so that it flows easily through the hole in the bag. Don't overfill it. And what you're gonna wanna do is, you don't wanna squeeze. All that does is create undue stress on your hand. You're gonna be very fatigued very quickly if you squeeze. It's not as effective. What you wanna do is twist. Just twist, just like a pastry chef would. You want the tip to go all the way into the joint, to the back of the wall, to your scratch coat, and work your way out from there. Get the tip between the stones. You don't want to smear the face of the stones by pushing it in from out. You want to fill that joint from the back of the joint. So this mortar's not going so smooth, so what I could do is I could make my hole a little bit bigger. The other thing I could do is add more water. But if it's the end of the day, I don't want to add more water because I'll be waiting too long to strike the joint. Sometimes at the end of the day, you got to muscle it a little bit, or if the joints allow, make the hole in your bag bigger. If your mortar's doing good in your bag, you don't have to rinse it out every time. If it's not drying out and it's moving nicely, just replenish right on top of that mortar that's in there. If your mortar in the bag is getting a little stiff, dip it in the bucket of water and give it a rinse. You'll have to do that periodically. Try to keep as much of the mortar inside the bag as you can. Sometimes after you rinse it, the mortars are going to be a little too wet at first, so just give a squirt on the side of your board until the mortar's the consistency you're looking for. Now that we've bagged the joints, we're going to finish them or tool them. In this case, we're going to use a flat slicker, a flat iron. Have a wide variety of sizes. The bigger the joint, the bigger the slicker. I'll be using the biggest one I have today. They make them bigger than this, but this is about average for what we would be needing. Right now, this mortar's too wet to joint, but since we're in the training room using lime mortar, it's not going to get where we would want it to be. In a normal job site situation, after we are done bagging the wall, 10, 15 minutes, it's perfectly fine. We're going to struggle a little, but that's okay. You'll get the idea. So what you do is you take your wide part of your iron where you can use it, and you get it into your joints, and you want to smooth them out, recessing your work. You can even cut that out. Whenever it's dry, nice, you can go right across it quickly. Now, as you can see, my jointer is not wide enough for this spot. So what you want to do is hold it at an angle. You want to cover the whole thing. Okay, so when it's time to slick the joint, you're going to fit your joiner in and compress the mortar so you've got a nice tight joint. Run it along and compress all your mortar. Do your horizontals, do your verticals, do them all. Whenever you get into these areas where you're thick and you'll do this, you might get a line. The best way to avoid the line, you could grab a larger slicker, or you could even hold this one on an angle. A lot of times you're just going to turn it to consume the whole area and slick it back. The nice thing about these is they have a thinner part on the end. So as you're coming through, if you hit a spot that's tight, you can always spin it around and use the thin part to get into that tighter area. You want your joint to be recessed of the face consistently throughout the wall. Whenever you're pointing, always have a trowel in your hand with a little bit of mortar. Sometimes there's going to be spots that the bag didn't fill perfectly. You're going to want to put a little bit of mortar on your slicker. We want clean edges on the stone. Cut away any boogers that you have. Make sure your joint's finished nice and smooth with no lines in it. Bend down and look up to see if there are any holes on the underside of the stone. Sometimes there might be a hole in the joint. You can see here if there's a hole, but you can't really see here if there's a hole. So you're gonna have to bend down and look up at your work. Make sure you have a nice seal underneath each stone. Okay, whenever you're brushing the wall, you want a soft bristle brush and you want to go with the joint in this case. Oftentimes, stonework, we don't want it to be a perfectly shiny joint, so the brush marks are an acceptable finish, and they help get rid of the lines. Especially, you'll have difficulties with your lines if at the end of the day your mortar's a little wet and you're brushing it a little too soon, but you really don't have a choice because it's the end of the day and you got to go. Sometimes you can really do a nice finish with a brush. Get rid of some of your imperfections, and if some of your imperfections remain, just go back over them with a tool.